Imagine one small island in Europe controlling nearly 1/4 of the entire world. India, Canada, Australia, large parts of Africa, the Caribbean, the Middle East. At its peak, the British Empire ruled over 400 million people. But here is the real question. How did Britain, a country smaller than many Indian states, control so much of the planet? The story begins in the 1500s and 1600s. At that time, European powers were racing across the oceans. Spain and Portugal were already building empires. Britain entered late. But Britain had one major advantage: ships. Not just ships for travel, but ships for war, trade, and control. The British Navy became one of the strongest military forces in the world. Whoever controlled the sea controlled trade routes, and whoever controlled trade routes controlled money. The empire was built on a foundation of maritime dominance. But Britain did not first arrive everywhere with a crown and an army. Many times it arrived with a company. The most powerful example was the British East India Company. This was not an ordinary company. It had its own army, it could make treaties, it could collect taxes, it could even fight wars. Think about that for a second. A private company became so powerful that it started ruling huge territories. In India, the company used trade, local alliances, military power, and political manipulation to expand control. One ruler against another, one kingdom against another. Divide, negotiate, fight, and profit. And why was India so important? Because India was extremely rich in resources, textiles, agriculture, and revenue. British control allowed raw materials like cotton to flow out, while British manufactured goods flowed back in. This helped fuel Britain's Industrial Revolution. Factories in Britain produced goods at massive scale. Colonies became markets to sell those goods. So the empire was not only about flags on a map, it was an economic machine. Resources came in, profits went out, power increased. Britain also used settlement colonies. In places like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, British settlers moved in large numbers. They built political systems connected to Britain. But in many other places, Britain ruled through a different method. Especially across Africa and Asia, Britain ruled through indirect control. Instead of replacing every local ruler, they often kept them in place. But real power remained with British officials. This made ruling cheaper and easier. A small number of British administrators could control millions of people by using existing power structures. Technology also helped Britain rule. Steamships made travel faster. Railways moved soldiers and goods. Telegraphs allowed messages to travel across continents in minutes. Earlier, an empire this large would have been almost impossible to manage. But with modern communication, Britain could connect distant colonies to London. Railways were often presented as development. And yes, they did change transportation, but they were also designed to move resources and troops in ways that served imperial interests. Control was not only military or economic, it was also cultural. The British introduced English education and legal systems. This created a class of local elites who could work inside the colonial system. But it also pushed British ideas of superiority. Colonial rule was often justified by saying, "We are bringing progress." But behind that were taxes and resource extraction. But no empire lasts forever. Across the world, people resisted. There were revolts, protests, and freedom struggles. After 2 world wars, Britain became weaker. Colonized people became more organized and more determined. India became independent in 1947. Many African and Asian countries followed. The empire that once looked unbeatable slowly collapsed. So how did Britain control 1/4 of the world? Through naval power, companies, trade, technology, and cultural influence. It was a system built over centuries, and its effects are still visible today, in borders, languages, laws, and politics. History is not just about the past, it explains the world we live in right now. If you want more videos explaining world history in a simple way, subscribe and comment which empire we should decode next.